picture a city. We've all been to cities at some point in our lives. And in these cities, there's some skyscrapers, right? There's some big skyscrapers, especially in the big ones, New York, LA, Atlanta, Miami, whatever. And some of these skyscrapers, they're big, they're tall, they're windowless, they tower above you. Thousands of people pass by these every day without a second thought. I mean, these are structures that are built to withstand nuclear attacks, fires, earthquakes, the whole 9 yards here. Well, maybe you should take a second look at these big skyscrapers, especially if you live in the cities or go to the cities: Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, New York City, San Francisco, Seattle, and Washington, D.C. Because in each of these cities, and by the way, this does not affect just the residents of those cities, this affects everyone, but in each of these cities, The Intercept has identified an AT&T facility containing networking equipment that transports large quantities of internet traffic across the United States and the world. Tonight on Spotlight, a new network of information receiving has been uncovered. The Intercept, and what Edward Snowden has called one of the most important surveillance stories of the decade, has uncovered a network of AT&T-owned buildings collecting hundreds of thousands of Americans, if not millions of Americans' information. Tonight on Spotlight, we will explore how this all came to be, what these networks do, and why they are working in conjunction with AT&T. We're going to do that and a whole lot more tonight. This is the Surveillance State on Spotlight. Welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, as you know, we have these cities. The NSA considers AT&T and all these cities here, as we know, that kind of crisscross the country here. They have all these towers. As we know, there's one in Chicago, there's one in NYC, San Francisco, Seattle, and I mean, these are very intimidating-looking buildings, and that are trafficking literally your personal information. That's like all your personal information is being trafficked, run through these spots here. So the NSA exploits these relationships for surveillance purposes with AT&T, and this NSA has lauded AT&T in the past for its extreme willingness to help. It's a collaboration that does date back decades. Little is known, however, The Intercept says, is about the scope and how it's how the scope, and that the scope is not restricted to AT&T's customers. So it's not just AT&T's customers that are getting their data pilfered here. Even if you say, oh, AT&T, they're the worst, we should switch because their towers are taking my personal data, we should go to like Verizon or whatever. But little is known now about, we're finding more information about this now. The Intercept is now reporting that it's not just the customers here of AT&T, as it was originally thought. It's not these AT&T customers. According to NSA documents, it values the AT&T not only because it has access to information that transits the nation, but also because it maintains unique relationships with other phone and internet providers. The NSA exploits these relationships for surveillance purposes, commandeering AT&T's massive infrastructure and using it as a platform to covertly tap into communications processed by other companies, so other phone and internet provider services. The relationships AT&T has had with these companies has been now commandeered by the NSA for their own surveillance benefits. I mean, these are literally all around the country. Maybe if you're safe if maybe you live in Minnesota, but I don't know. Probably not. So yeah, 611 Folsom Street in San Francisco, 420 South Grand Avenue in Los Angeles, 1122 3rd Avenue in Seattle, in Chicago, 10 South Canal Street, 39 East Street Southwest, or that's 30 East Street Southwest in Washington, D.C., and 811 10th Avenue in New York City. And there is so much more to this story. Those are just some of the places. For example, Texas, Dallas, 4 4211 Bryan Street, 51 Peachtree Center Avenue in Atlanta. And I mean, these are all the places where these towers, these AT&T towers, are tapped into. I mean, much has previously been reported about the NSA's surveillance programs, but few details have been disclosed about the physical infrastructure that enables the spying. Last year, The Intercept highlighted a likely NSA facility in New York City's Lower Manhattan. Now, they are revealing for the first time a series of other buildings across the U.S. that appear to serve a similar function as critical parts of one of the world's most powerful electronic eavesdropping systems has now been revealed to be hidden in plain sight. It's eye-opening and ominous to the extent which is happening right here on American soil. Elizabeth Goitein, the co-director of the Liberty and National Security Program at the Brennan Center for Justice, it puts a face on surveillance that we could never think of before in terms of actual buildings and actual facilities in our own cities and in our own backyards. There are hundreds of AT&T-owned properties scattered across the U.S. The 8 identified by The Intercept serve as a specific function, processing AT&T customers' data and carrying large quantities of data from other internet providers. They're known as backbone and peering facilities. So, as these AT&T-owned properties scattered across the U.S., they're pretty much mining this data, and they are pretty much spreading it around and giving it back to the AT&T the NSA officials. So, yeah, the 8 identified by The Intercept, they serve a specific function. They process the customer's data and also carry large quantities of data from other internet providers. So they filter. It doesn't matter. It's not just AT&T data that they're getting. It's also from other customers, other companies' customers that are filtered through here. So that's some very disturbing stuff, I will say. Yeah, and that's the thing. So while we may think, like, why won't network operators want to send their data through their own networks? It's often a way more direct and cost-efficient path is provided by other providers' infrastructure. So AT&T is obviously here way too willing to say, hey, I'll do it. And yeah, that's the thing. So if one network in a specific area of the country is overloaded with data traffic, another operator with capacity to spare can sell or exchange bandwidth, reducing the strain on the congested region. The exchange of traffic is called peering and is an essential feature of the internet. So it pretty much divides out the heavy lifting of all the traffic. So a lot of people are on the internet. For example, in New York City, I mean, they will use some other like a lot of Verizon customers use the internet in New York City, for example, and they say, this is not good. We may have a problem with our servers or systems. Why not send it through AT&T? And then the AT&T would mine that data and send it to the NSA for continued spying and observation. That's the disturbing situation there. As we know, AT&T is one of the world's, or the U.S.'s leading telecommunications companies. It has a large network that is frequently used by other providers to transport their customers' data. So AT&T is not the only one using their massive network. Companies that peer with AT&T include the American telecommunications giant Sprint, Cogent Communications, and Level 3, and the Intercept reports, as well as foreign companies such as Sweden's Telia, India's Tata Communications, and Italy's Telecom Italia, as well as Germany's Deutsche Telekom. AT&T boasts around 19,500 points of presence, which is an access point that connects to the internet located inside a facility that contains routers, servers, and other networking equipment. So it's pretty much stations where you can connect to the internet. So it's 19,000. It's pretty much, from what I can understand, points of presence is where they have internet connectivity station, pretty much stations where around the country, 19,500 around the country where one can, in 149 countries, where internet traffic is exchanged. But only 8 of the company's facilities in the U.S. offer direct access to its common backbone, key data routes that carry vast amounts of emails, internet chats, and social media updates and internet browsing sessions. These 8 locations are among the most important to the AT&T's global network. They are also highly valued by the NSA to find out about those, and I quote, vast amounts of emails, internet chats, social media updates, and internet browsing sessions. So those are apparently highly valued by the NSA. And it's just the point where you may wonder, like, why, they have nothing to hide by looking into me. If you ever want to become anyone who has social activism, anyone who wants to do any sort of social activism, who wants to get something changed in the world, for example, just take the example of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She was tending a bar, like literally, back in 2017. But very recently, she was just elected to become. She just unseated one of the most powerful Democrats in the House of Representatives in a fiercely anti-business, anti-government platform. Not anti-government. It's just like very upstart, radical, apparently far left platform. I'm not saying that I believe it's radically far left. I'm saying that there's a lot of people who are in the government that may be very worried about her. So I mean, that just goes to show you, like, you can never really say that you're boring, because who knows what your future could hold. And for someone like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she could be someone who's tending a bar 1 year and being literally in the House of Representatives in a very progressive platform the next year. So it's you never know what could happen. And the sad thing is, when you say, "Oh, it's nothing to do with me. I'm just someone who is relatively uninteresting, very boring person. No one's going to want to look into me at all." Well, I mean, pretty much what you're saying is you're giving up that right to. You're saying, okay, I'm not going to be searched. I'm not going to be stalked all the time on the internet. But in exchange for that, I have to be the most sustained. I have to be the most sanitized. I have to be the most conformist person ever to just pretty much avoid service, if you know what I'm trying to say. Just to not get any kind of attention drawn my way. So the data exchange between the AT&T and other networks here that they're doing here initially takes place outside AT&T's control, sources said, at third-party data centers that are owned and operated by companies such as California's Equinix. But when the data is routed in whole or in part through the AT&T, 8 of these AT&T buildings where the NSA taps into it, by monitoring what it calls the peering circuits at each of the 8 sites, the spy agency can collect not only AT&T's data, then they get all the data that's interchanged between AT&T's network and other companies. Mark Klein, a former AT&T technician who worked with the company for 22 years, said. So pretty much what happens is, they start off these third-party data centers outside AT&T's control. They get brought back into these big 8 pillars of the network, the common backbone that transfers all your internet activity. The ones we mentioned before in California, New York, Seattle, Atlanta, pretty much crisscrossing the entire nation. Dallas has one as well. And so they are all crisscrossed there, and that's kind of where they all end up leading to here. And Mark Klein says, and that's when the NSA is tapped into it. So that's how the spy agency can, again, not only collect AT&T data, but they also can get data that's interchanged between AT&T's network and other companies. So yeah, he says by peering links, because the peering links, he says, Mark Klein, a former AT&T technician, says that this system is an efficient point to conduct internet surveillance. He says, because the peering links, by the nature of connections, are liable to carry everybody's traffic at one point or another during the day or the week or the year. So Christopher Augustine, the spokesperson for the NSA, said in a statement, the agency could neither confirm nor deny its role in alleged classified intelligence activities. Augustine denied to answer questions about AT&T facilities, but says the NSA conducts its foreign signals in intelligence mission under the legal authority established by Congress and is both bound by policy and law to protect the U.S. person's privacy and civil liberties. So, yeah, I mean, we've seen how willing they've been to overstep those boundaries, overstep those situations in the past, how much the American people have been kept in the dark by this whole entire situation. And it's very disturbing to think what they could be doing in the future